speaking event. Just before I start, I'm sure we're not going to have a fire, but if we do, there are 3 different fire exits you should know about. There's one there, there's one when you come in, and there's also one through the hall. Hopefully that'll be just for information. Tonight we've got a very unusual speaker. He's so unusual that somebody in this room never comes to our events. But he said he was going to come tonight because the speaker was so unusual. And he certainly is. Mudar Zahran, who is with us tonight, is the Secretary General of the Jordanian Opposition Coalition. Now, I didn't even know there was a Jordanian opposition, never mind a coalition of the opposition. But I'm sure Mudar will tell us all about it. Mudar is a Jordanian. He lives in London, where he's been since 2010, where he was seeking political asylum. He studied in the US and in the UK, and all his family is still in Jordan. So his parents, his 3 sisters, brother, are all in Jordan. And he's the only one of the family that's living in the UK. In fact, he told me this evening that he hasn't seen his father for 7 years because he can't go back to Jordan, and his father can't come out to see him either. So he'll tell us the story of what he's doing just now, some of his background, and I'm sure you'll find it very interesting indeed. So Mudar will speak for about half an hour, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So as he's speaking, I'm sure he'll say some things that it'll be worthwhile following up on. So please welcome to Glasgow, Mudar Zahran.
Yeah. Well done.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the merciful, the most merciful. I would like to thank you all for having me here tonight. It's quite an honor to be speaking today to your community in Glasgow. Today, I come to you with a different message than the one that you usually hear from a Jordanian and Palestinian. We are on the threshold of a different time, a new era in which everything will be decided in a different realm. Today, we're looking at a gateway for peace that's factual, that's built on reality rather than illusion, than factual work rather than hopes and lost and broken dreams. Today, we are one step away from David Sling killing the tyrant monster. We are going to witness peace soon through the least expected ways and through the most unpredicted pathways of policy, diplomacy, and much more. First of all, to speak about peace, we need to learn where do things begin to see where they're going to end. There was a country called Beit HaMikdash. Beit HaMikdash in Arabic, Beit al-Maqdis, was a state, a county of the Ottoman Empire. That place was cut from the Ottoman Empire and renamed Palestine. All of the names you hear today, like Palestine, Kuwait, Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, even Libya, they're all bogus names. They never existed. We are dealing with the heavy and rotten, almost 100-year-old leftovers of the Ottoman Western heritage that's not in the interest of us, natives of the land and the region. That country extended from the Mediterranean, Beit HaMikdash, extended from the Mediterranean to the borders of Iraq. That country includes today's Jordan and today's Israel. There was a war that was unfair. Both sides committed atrocities, and that war ended up in division. The Arabs, under the rule of the so-called Hashemites, agreed to a new kind of division in which we got 78% of the land that's called Palestine, and the Jews got 22%. That 78% of the land is called today Jordan. And the other part, the Jewish Palestine, is called Israel. This we all know. This we all ignore. Meanwhile, the state of Palestine, the homeland for the Palestinian, could have been established 70 years ago, was it not for the Hashemite family, which even today is barely 88 individuals ruling the life of 7.2 million people. It's not only about dictatorship. The Hashemite autocracy is different and unique. It's the only country, the only regime in the world that tells 92% of its citizens that they are non-citizens, that they are refugees. How are we refugees when we're holding Jordanian passports? Do you realize that every single Palestinian in the West Bank holds a Jordanian passport? Very few realize that, including Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority. The division is not fair, but has there ever been a division of land resulting from wars that was ever fair? Was the division of India and Pakistan fair? Was it even fair to 10 million people from both sides who had to switch places across the borders? What about my parents, Palestinians from Jerusalem? They had the right to return to Jerusalem. You cannot deny them the right to go back to their homeland, to where they were born. At the same time, what if 850,000 Jews from Arab countries began demanding going home? In other words, in theory, right of return is sacred. In reality, it's going to just bring another war, and it's going to bring more disasters for both of us. Time to let these dogs sleep. Time to kill the war and kill the conflict by defusing it and neutralizing it. And all the roads lead to Amman, to Jordan, not to Jerusalem. Jordan citizenship law confirms that every single Palestinian who is a non-Jew is a natural-born Jordanian. So every single self-identifying Palestinian in Israel is a Jordanian. The Gazans are Jordanians, according to Jordan's law. It doesn't end there. Jordan itself, under the Hashemite kings, has identified itself responsible for all Palestinians according to its own constitution. So what's the problem if we have such a very fit and legally binding laws that could solve the conflict? The Palestinians who are refugees in Lebanon and Syria and elsewhere, they have a place they can call home. All the Palestinians in the West Bank who hold Jordanian passports, and that's all of them, they're banned from entering the wrong country, Jordan. The Hashemite regime has thrived over the conflict. The kings of Jordan have been very accessory and able in inflating and sustaining the conflict all that time. It's time for change. It's time to consider a different option. While we move forward and we look at today's present time, what is Jordan? Most people, when they talk about Jordan, including some self-described experts, they talk about laws and facts that were valid 15, 10, and sometimes 20 years ago. A lot of myths, and let's speak about the facts. Jordan's king, Abdullah II, does not control Jordan's army, does not control Jordan's intelligence, nor does he control anything to do with the country's security. Jordan's king does not control anything in the country except for the executive body, which is the budget, the money, and that's pretty much his interest. The army is under full influence thanks to full cooperation with our American friends, that's the Army and the Air Force. As for our intelligence security agencies, we are in full cooperation with the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is, for those who don't know, is like the military CIA, the Mossad, the MI6, and the MI5, and many other friends, especially the Swedes and the Germans. And these are information which you won't, this is information which you won't necessarily find online, but it is true. The king is irrelevant. The Hashemites do not control the borders in order to protect the borders. Some argue that we need the Hashemite because they keep the peace with Israel, because they keep the borders safe. How can they keep the borders safe if they don't control the army? If Jordan's king falls tomorrow, what's the difference? What's going to happen to Jordan? What's going to change in Jordan? If the army is controlling the borders and the intelligence is controlling the country's security, and the king spends up to 80% of his time out of the country, why are we keeping to this outdated, irrelevant regime that's so expensive to all of us? Any hopes or chances for a Palestinian state inside Israel, be it in the West Bank or elsewhere, is out of the question. We are connected. We have friends in all places that matter. And I can assure you, nobody believes anymore that there will ever be a Palestinian state in the West Bank. It won't happen. Israel won't allow it. The US doesn't believe in it. And the Arabs are not willing to finance it. And on top of that, the Palestinians in the West Bank, as much as they have sincere hatred for Jews, they hate the Palestinian Authority even more, and they openly yearn to the days when they were able to work in Israel and receive Israeli benefits and welfare. This is a fact. Recent studies confirm that. So we are like very similar to, you know, to a kid who still believes in the peace fairy. It does not exist. Peace could only happen with good borders. Peace could only happen when the Palestinian people, who are Jordanians, 2.2 million Jordanians in the West Bank, receive their statehood and the rights to a state in their country, Jordan. Why do we need to create another state? How many states are we, Jordanians and Palestinians, going to have? And it's my classic joke. We have a Palestinian state in Jordan, and we're going to get one in the West Bank and one in Gaza, and inshallah, one in East London. It's time we stop fooling ourselves. For those who choose to still cry over the Hashemites and claim that the Hashemites are necessary for the state of Israel, Jordan's king has been in full alliance with the Muslim Brotherhood. Jordan's king is the Muslim Brotherhood best friend, and this is documented. Jordan's king, when he sentences a secular like me to life in prison, the Muslim Brotherhood, he puts him in his parliament, he puts him in his government, and he puts him in his very own intelligence services. Jordan's king was caught red-handed selling weapons to ISIS. Everything I'm telling you here is documented and a Google search away. Jordan sold weapons to ISIS. Jordan still buys oil from ISIS. Jordan smuggles weapons for business to terrorist groups inside Israel. Jordan controls Hamas. This might sound very strange to some of you. Come on, Jordan controls Hamas. What is Hamas? Hamas is the Palestine chapter of the Muslim Brotherhood. of Jordan. Hamas is the Palestine chapter of the Jordanian Muslim Brotherhood. This is also documented. Who controls Hamas? The Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan. Who controls the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan? Jordan's King's Royal Office. 2014, 2,200 Palestinians were killed thanks to Hamas, and up, I think, to 60, 65, almost 100 Israelis. Not to mention the soldiers. That war in 2014 was Jordan's King's War. He felt he was being left out by the American administration, and he wanted to show his significance. I've been saying this for years. Many chose not to believe me until Prime Minister Netanyahu came and said exactly what I've been saying to you for years. Jordan's king is playing both ends against the middle. Netanyahu said just a month ago, Jordan is playing both ends of the game. On one hand, they support and finance Islamists. On the other hand, they come and tell you we are the only game in town. No, you're not the only game in town. We, as the Jordanian Opposition Coalition, have managed to bring the king to the verge of collapse several times. The most successful attempt we had was in 2012. November 2012, we asked the people, because we do have the influence and the popularity, to go to the streets and demand that the king steps down. 1 million people, and this is documented. 1 million people. These are things you can find online, just when you go home. Check it. November 2012 in Jordan, 1 million people out of 7 million took to the streets and even surrounded the king's own palace. The king and his family fled the country. They were nowhere to be seen. And the army, which is under American influence, which we intend to keep someday when we liberate Jordan, the army took over the country. And we were just ready for the king to announce his abdication. What happened? Obama's administration, which was very supportive of the Muslim Brotherhood, brought him back. It happened in November 2012. Then we tried again in August 2013, and the king fled and went to the Vatican. He stayed in the Vatican. And again, feel free to search and verify everything I'm telling you here today. Then there was another time, and I won't go into details, and each time the Muslims supporting Obama brought him back, because if the king goes, the Muslim Brotherhood goes. By the king's own admission, Jordan's Muslim Brotherhood is a part of the regime. So it didn't stop there. 2014, I warned on social media and with an article of mine in the Jewish Press magazine in New York, that Jordan's government was planning a new intifada, and that the intifada was going to be launched in Jerusalem. The 9th intifada was launched, and it began exactly in Jerusalem. We were aware that the king was planning it with his intelligence operatives in East Jerusalem, and they were working on it for 7 months before it was launched. How many Israelis and Palestinians were killed in this? The Hashemites are parasites working on our blood, and they are not a part of the problem. They are the problem. If there were no Hashemites, there would have been a homeland for us for 70 years by now. Even if a hostile government in Jordan exists, even if it's anti-Israel, it's a problem in Israel's borders, not a problem inside Israel. Which one would you prefer? A lion inside your house or at the gate? If you have to choose. No matter how you look at it, sustaining the very expensive regime in Jordan which is financially exhausting, economically depressing, socially devastating, and security involving to keep the king in power. You are keeping a man who doesn't belong to 7 million people. I represent 6 million Palestinians in Jordan, and even by marriage, my wife represents the Bedouins. I represent every Jordanian. Whom does the king represent? None. That being the case, you don't have to listen to what we say about the king. You just have to listen to what the Mossad says. November 2015, report by Israeli ambassador Danny Dayan. He was told by the quote unquote the top administration of the Mossad that they believe Jordan's king is its last and that he would never pass the throne to his son. Then, just 3 months ago, a leak of a report by the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Israeli ambassador in Jordan. She said that the fall of the Hashemite kingdom is imminent. Anyone trying to purchase an insurance policy for either Israel or the Palestinians that's based on the Hashemite monarchy is going to lose. There's still time to save the day. There's still time to save Jordan's secular opposition, which is actually popular. Jordanians passionately hate Jews, but Jordanians are not Islamists. Look at their voting record. They rarely vote Islamists in power, unlike, for example, the Palestinians and Jordanians in the West Bank, who always vote for Islamists. We still have a chance, especially with the presence of President Trump. President Trump has been briefed carefully, and I can say this authoritatively, about the actions of Jordan's king and Abbas. He knows exactly what they are doing. He knows exactly whom are they aligned with and how they coordinate with Hamas, and even worse than Hamas. The president won't cut them a lot of slack. The president will have to handle it, and he won't wait for too long. And his senior advisor, Jared Kushner, is an American patriot who was madly in love with his ancestral country, Israel. At the same time, a very sharp and smart young man who would not involve too much in a losing peace illusion. The king is leaving sooner or later. The king is eventually leaving. Arab states are cutting the aid to him. In fact, the aid money has disappeared. He is in a big problem with Saudi Arabia today because of his alliance with Qatar. Qatar and Jordan are the Muslim Brotherhood's nest house. Therefore, the king is yesterday's news. He's on life support. His regime is on life support. Eventually, someone is going to cut the machines off. And then, Jordan could either fall into absolute chaos. It's okay, the army will take over. We have an example. In Egypt, Mubarak went away, nothing happened at the borders. Morsi took over, nothing happened. Morsi was toppled, nothing happened. Why? Because the army is in control. Jordan is no longer a country. Jordan is a military regime that's being headed by a figurehead with no authority, and it's time to replace him with someone else. And don't worry, we are realistic. We love our people and we want change for them. We will open the doors for our brothers and sisters in the West Bank, whom 63% of which would like to leave. We would never tolerate the ethnic cleansing of Jordanians and Palestinians from Israel. But if they want to come and join the new Jordan, they're welcome. The new Jordan is a welfare state. The new Jordan is a generous state because we won't steal the money We won't steal the money like the king does. We're going to give it back to our people. The new Jordan is going to offer to its citizens a health service, jobs, unemployment benefits. This would attract our brothers and sisters if they want to come. They can stay also, and we still take care of them. They can stay in Israel. How many French men and women live in the United Kingdom? They're still citizens of their own country. My citizens in Ramallah, in Shechem or Nablus, and elsewhere, there will be Jordanian citizens who are residents of Israel. They want their paperwork, their passports, their death certificates, and marriage certificates. They can get them from Amman, but not from Jerusalem. Almost 1 million Canadians live at the borders with the United States, and the other way around. It's not taking any of their Canadian citizenship or their rights that they live in the United States. This is the only arrangement there is. Anyone else who could predict or even propose a different solution, may they speak now while President Trump is in power, or forever hold their peace. At the same time, this fake, bogus, ugly, disgusting war and conflict between Palestinian Jews and Palestinian non-Jews, between Israelis and Arabs of the land, has gone on for too long. It's time we save our children. The dirt, the monstrosity, and the waste of wars, which are not our wars. They are the wars of Arab dictators like Jordan's king, Qatar, and others. And even people like Mubarak at one point were involved in creating this. It's the war of greedy Western states which have been meddling in this business, like Germany, which has the worst history to be ashamed of with the Jews, that's now involved in itself to expand the conflict. And Merkel is receiving both killers, Abdullah of Jordan and Abbas, who both have zero mandate to represent any of my people. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as my party is concerned, we will make it to power sooner or later. We will go back to liberate Jordan. Today, tomorrow, 20 years, or 100, it's going to happen. And then we see a new Jordan where the son will rise on a state that's in a marriage with Israel, both economically, militarily, and on the massive political scale. The new Jordan will be to Israel what Canada is to the United States. We're going to enjoy the land of milk and honey, where we won't fear our kids stabbing Israeli soldiers or Israeli soldiers shooting at our kids. Enough is enough. We've fought other people's war. We've been conned. Give up the hatred and replace it with love. And from this podium, I will say 1,000,000 times, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yarden Chai, today, tomorrow, and forever. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for listening.